Hi Libra, welcome to my channel. Libra, as I mentioned in the Solar Eclipse Initiation video and podcast, on 10th of June at 6:52 a.m. Eastern Time, Sun and Moon will come together as a solar eclipse at 19°47' of Gemini, along with North Node to plant a new seed. We would have 6 planets physically parallel and anti-parallel in the sky with the karmic nodes, like the whole universe is conspiring to bring something to pass in this moment of eclipse. After a period of reconsideration and confusion, we are meant to see things clearly. It may not yet be time to start or announce, or external messaging might still be delayed, as the ruler of the eclipse would be retrograde till 22nd of June, but the initiation of the new thinking and a new mind begins. A new thought form is born, and for you Libra, that begins a new phase of expansion in your knowledge, in your influence, in your foreign connections, in travel, in legalization, in media, in publication, in teaching, in learning. It's activating your higher mind, your higher thinking, and an adventure begins. North Node is where we stumble, we get up and we start again, because it's our path of forward growth of this lifetime, our karma of this lifetime. We must grow through and grow towards. Every 19 years, we evolve a specific part of our life through leaps and bounds. This is the last 6 months of this karmic growth in the area of your life which has to do with expansion of your influence, expansion of your mind, higher knowledge, and that's where we are going to plant a new seed. This mingles with the lunar eclipse that we just had, and the theme of release of that eclipse will run in parallel with the solar eclipse, which is about releasing an old thought form. Possibly an early conditioning, an old education, a negative influence, or a thinking that blocks you from making your forward move. That is being released. This is a break from the familiar. Release of what blocks, faith in your own skills and expertise, so your self-expression is set free. It's time to speak up. It's time to share your knowledge with others instead of waiting to know everything. You're raising the standard of your life purpose and expanding who you are. This is a leap of faith. Today we would not so much focus on this one event alone, but more on what these next 6 months are supposed to teach us and what kind of evolution our mind is going to undergo, where one kind of thought form or belief is being released and a new one which would serve us for the next 19 years is born. We never stop growing, but Gemini eclipses take our knowledge and mind for a leap in matter of days and months, which would normally take many years to come to pass. If you're old enough, this kind of growth you would have experienced back in 2002. Your axis of adventure and wisdom is being activated for a fated shift, as over the course of next 6 months an old adventure ends and a new one begins. As promised in part 1 of this video, which is the overview of the solar eclipse that I did a few days back, in this part 2 we are going to delve deeper into all details of your sign, because it's relevant for you for the next 6 months. My name is Charu and I am your host on this journey. So let's dig in. Let's start exploring the solar eclipse first. Libra, the 10th of June solar eclipse for you begins a new adventure, which focuses on growth of your higher mind, exploration, travel, education on the job, or taking on a role which is much more expansive. And it offers a very sharp learning curve. There's expansion beyond ordinary, going beyond the mundane. We are driven to initiate projects or publications or activities that expand our mind and feed our sense of adventure, and where we use our higher knowledge as well as higher octave of imagination. This is fresh infusion of new philosophy, perspective, a spiritual or religious experience which expands our outlook on life. And it gives us an experience which is very different from our prior experience. Normally, people travel either in their mind or body or interact with people who are foreign and different from them to gain a perspective in this time. We read, we learn, we connect. And in Gemini, sometimes we need to pass through wads of information to get a different perspective, or to go through multiple interactions and sources to enrich our thought process. It's all in positive aspect with you. It all adds to you. And it adds to your thinking and your brilliant mind. Ordinary or status quo becomes unacceptable here. We want extraordinary. And this is academically extraordinary for you. And for that, we are going to push the limits of the conventions, of our mentors, of our old conditioning, of the current group that we belong to. We're going to push the limits of our own mind. Even if the project that you have been given is mundane, you are going to elevate it by adding diversity, knowledge, interesting things to it. It's a good time to explore a different belief system, a new concept. Interact with people who are different from you, who are placed in foreign land, who are placed in far away places, or just have a different conditioning than you, because you are exposing your mind to a different set of information. It's an amazing time to travel if you could, or to plan a trip, or to broaden the outlook in some ways where your life purpose is going through a complete change. This is where a new life purpose is born. Even though the thinking is more practical, but we become very curious about what our life's purpose is. What do we want to get out of this life? And this curiosity is not philosophical alone, it's very practical. This curiosity and expanded self-expression of your mind could be in the form of you looking for a new expanded role where you're able to grow further. Or it could be in form of you looking at a new country to settle in, a foreign association, a publication of significance where you can express yourself fully, a book, a teaching platform, or a new specialization, or a media project that lets your voice reach others. And this was possibly already seeded in January through an interaction or an epiphany, and it was further possibly worked on in early April. But right now in June, it's going through a period of reconsideration and edits to come out in a format which is going to look very different from what you started with. This is outward focused energy. This is not internal analysis. We are going through a very expressive period of our life where we are outwardly expanding, and you would be attracting experiences that challenge your status quo, that broaden your perspective. You would need to feed this hunger for adventure, this need to shift, escape from mundane, this need for self-expression which is larger than life in some ways. Your future growth is in this expansion, is in living in a foreign country or working on foreign concepts or ideas and interaction with people who are different from you, in taking a higher education or moving to a more expansive and current topic of work that stimulates your mind and keeps you interested. Dull is unacceptable, mundane is unacceptable, and would not be the path to growth. Communication, speaking up, sharing, using new social media, networking, interacting, finding new mentors, new influences, working on being a conduit of connection or trade, or being a conduit of different philosophies or knowledge forms which you're bringing together is also a road to growth for you. Having an open mind, like yours, which you naturally have, that means that you would have multiple options and opinions in front of you, which you might be right now exploring. And this is a month when you'll be making some renewals, some sort of reviews, and making a choice in some ways. The globetrotter in you is surely on fire. But it is possible that for now, you might need to virtually satisfy that need to travel, or find a future plan to travel, or manage travel locally in some ways. Although all Libra would benefit from this fresh infusion of energy in your mind and in your sense of adventure, because this is in positive aspect with you, but Libra rising sun or moon around 20 degree of Libra, plus or minus 3 degrees, so 17 degree of Libra to 23 degree of Libra rising sun or moon would benefit the most, which if you are a Libra sun, it would be Libra sun born around 12th of October, plus or minus 3 days, around 3 days of 12th of October. They would benefit the most. This kind of expansion was last experienced in 2002. So if you're old enough, it's possible that at that time you might have been in an educational phase, and it might be like becoming a student in some ways again. But the curve is very steep and it's a practical curve. But you could look back to 2002 if you're old enough in terms of what adventure initiated for you, what leap did you take, and that resulted in a leap in your career in some ways. Sometimes we move forward and grow to the next level of education in what was acquired. So if our education was acquired in 2002, we might move to the next level of education now in that. This axis was also activated in December of 2011, but with reverse polarity. So it's possible that an adventure that might have started around end of 2011 might be coming for a release and ending as a new growth leap begins. Let's briefly talk about Mercury retrograde, as this eclipse is very integrally interacting with the Mercury retrograde that we are having right now till 22nd of June, which is asking you to pay attention to certain reconsiderations on the path forward as you revisit your life's purpose. And as I said, this life purpose is not philosophical, it is not metaphorical, it is a practical life purpose. There might be some back and forth or even misunderstandings that might be occurring at this time with mentors, with teachers, with sponsors. There could be small misses in communication with them. But that is further enriching your way forward. We are looking at things from a different lens right now, trying to see if there are important details which are missing in our broad vision. Or there might be details missing in our actual written plan or a publication that we are creating. But there is more likely an error in judgment, which we might caught hold of early if we slow down a little bit right now. Because that error in judgment can derail us to some extent because of miscommunication or because of misunderstanding, especially with a mentor or with a teacher or with a sponsor. We review if we have missed tapping into some resource, like a person, a foreign friend, or a mentor who can give you some information, or our own education in the past, if it gives us some clues, our own educational institute who can give you some sort of support. So we're going to review if we have tapped all the resources during this time till 22nd of June. We review if we need to retrain ourselves to acquire further knowledge on the subject. This is also the house of legalization in another country. So it's possible that you might have applied for a visa or for settling down into another country, and there might be some rework required for that. Our beliefs also would be under review right now, because our beliefs do create our reality. They definitely create the words we speak. So we would be reviewing our thinking process, our belief in this time, especially if some misunderstanding has come to surface. Because we might have made some assumptions about people, about projects, about paths, which are based on our bias and not facts. On mundane basis, we might be retaking exams, editing publications, reconnecting with old mentors or influencers to tap all our resources, proofreading our work, reading, expanding our mind, reviewing the books we read, reviewing our influences. If we have lost our sense of adventure in life due to mundane work, we would be looking at ways to recapture that adventure of life. We would also review our own role as a teacher, as an expert of a subject. Have we leveraged our knowledge fully? Do we need to share our knowledge more to expand further? Do we need a format or a platform to express ourselves and our knowledge more clearly? Mercury retrograde normally happens on the heel of a big shift, when we are about to take a leap. This last happened around May or June of 2015 for you. Not everything is the same, but we do bring forward the lessons of that time. Sometimes work projects, mentors, unresolved issues, colleagues of that time, they do come forward for us to look into. There was no eclipse though at that time, so the leap you're about to take is definitely a bigger leap than you had taken in May or June of 2015. But there are certain lessons which do carry forward from the past cycle, and they do come back up if the issues were unresolved. And Mercury retrograde in Gemini is always about our communication skills, how openly and how in some ways objectively have we been communicating and connecting with our mentors, with our sponsors, with the people who are away from us, who are different from us. So if there has been any unresolved or miscommunication, there could be an educational knowledge that you might need, which might come through if you review the period events of May or June of 2015. They always give a clue to move forward. As I said, there was no eclipse at that time, so the leap is much bigger here. But this comes through a phase of this reconsideration period and delay till 22nd of June. Solar eclipse always comes with it comes with a lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse, which just happened on 26th of May, is also going to influence us along with the solar eclipse over the course of next 6 months. So now we're going to talk briefly about that. This solar eclipse is about a new start, but lunar eclipse is about a closure, a release, and sometimes a crisis which needs our attention, which also becomes a stimulus for this new start, for this new adventure. And for you, this specific crisis or the specific closure could be linked to something mundane. It could be that we have been given wads of data to sift through, or a mundane project has come that we just don't like and we don't want to be involved with, and we just want that to get over so we can move to something better, or that just gives us the clarity that this is something that we want to disassociate from, move away from, or that this has become too simple or primary for us to be associated with in some ways. Or it could be an association. It could be that you have just outgrown the current group you're part of, that this specific area in which you're working, or the specific neighborhood you are in, or the people or the colleagues you work with, they are somehow not part of the kind of adventure and growth you're looking for. There is no excitement in it anymore. And it could be an association with people which is also weighing you down because it's mundane in nature, it's empty chit chat in some ways, or it's just distracting you from your purpose in some ways. There could also be an actual distraction in form of too much use of mobile or social media or chatting or just digital procrastination. That is something that's keeping you away from your higher purpose, and you decide to just release it, to end it. This is the lunar eclipse comes with an ending, it comes with a cord cutting, it comes with a moving away from. And you're moving away from something mundane, closing a chapter onto something mundane. You're releasing possibly some connections as well, which are taking a lot of your time and mind space, which you want to reserve for something better. It could be a group project or a commercial or communication project or a data filled project that has been weighing you down, which now you need to distance yourself to be able to move to bigger things. You're making space in the busy mind so you can let universe fill it up with possibilities or something higher, something more adventurous, something more enriching for you. Sometimes we move from focusing on something which is very familiar, which is part of your old knowledge, and it has become easy for us. When people say, I can do this in my sleep, you essentially reach that space that now you want to move forward from that. You want to move to something more evolved, something more stimulating, something with more global impact, something which you can call your purpose in some ways, to make space for opportunities that possibly take you around the world or expose you to different perspective, expose you to people who are different from you, expose you to a different knowledge set. You might have outgrown your current immediate environment, co-workers, friends, associations, subjects, and it's time to move forward. Sometimes the immediate environment itself starts moving. Like we sometimes, because of inertia, we refuse to move. And then people around us, they start leaving. And we realize that probably it's time. So there are hints like boulders that start hitting us in that place. Sometimes there's usually a release of a contract. There could be a documentation that is linked to that is keeping you there. There could be a project that is keeping you there, a commitment of project that is keeping you there, which might delay this release to early September, which is when a karmic event, in my view, or a fated event will help you move away from this mundane place where you want to move away from. In this area, sometimes we are asked to selflessly help someone. It could be a sibling, younger sibling, or it could be a colleague who's undergoing a change in life. And we sometimes are asked to selflessly help them. But the major theme is detoxing this mundane, detoxing screen time, social media, wasteful chit chat, as well as detoxing your own thinking and communication style would be key part of this evolution over the course of next 6 months for you, as in some ways we are emptying our old mind and making space for a more expansive mindset and a change in who influences us and who we influence. By changing our company, by changing the subject matter we involved in, by changing the associations. It might be time to move away for a highly commercial yet simple venture as work is not stimulating anymore. You sort of maybe are saying, okay, this is too simple, it's too commercial, I need something more intellectually stimulating. And you almost feel detached and snoozed about the subject and the projects you're working on. And the people involved in are not enriching you anymore in some ways. And sometimes our subject matter becomes too narrow and you want to sort of broaden your knowledge, and that is the way to do it. The full information, as I said, will only be clear towards early September because there might be something that is holding you down, that is still keeping you over there. When I think in early September, through a fated event, things could come to light. though this will benefit, it is in positive aspect with you. This expansion as well as the release, they're both beneficial to your growth. It benefits all of Libra, but the release specifically of this contract, of this surrounding, changing, and you sort of, moving away from the mundane will be very strongly felt by early degree Libra, 5 degree Libra specifically. So around 3 degrees plus minus, so 3 degrees to 2 degree to 8 degree essentially of Libra, rising sun or moon, which is essentially September or around 28th of September born Libra will feel it the most. My daughter is the little Libra girl, and she's moving from infant school to junior school. It's like moving to the next level. So early September born or the early degree Libras would feel like they're moving to a higher chapter in their learning in some ways. Apart from this, let's just go over the key do's and don'ts of the next 6 months. As the two eclipses intermingle and color our next 6 months, we would also be living the last 6 months of karmic growth, which North Node in Gemini and the karmic release that South Node in Sagittarius is supposed to give us. In way of road to success, let's lay down a few do's and don'ts of these 6 months, keeping in mind that we will stumble many times. This is something new you're trying. So we're going to stumble a couple of times, but in that process, the untried would be tried. To start with an expanded outlook of world and culture, we would have to get involved in world events, get more informed about the current events, get more linked up with international relations, trade, what's going on, learning about different cultures. This is inquisitiveness about world events essentially. And also getting inquisitive about use of media, use of social media to be in line with the current trends, to educate ourselves on what's going on. Because you're exploring a different set of thought process altogether. You would be questioning the status quo, and that will happen through curiosity, increasing curiosity to be in the know of what's going on. This is an update of education and philosophy time, where we sort of rely on new ideologies to broaden our mind, and it happens through interaction with a new circle of people. And we could find them physically, or they might be influencers online who we start learning from. But this is practical knowledge. So these are the people who are experienced in that field which you want to get into. And it happens by keeping a very open mind, because these are state-of-the-art subjects. These are new subjects that you're learning about. While you open yourself up to new views, you are definitely opening yourself to new views. It's also the time for you to share your existing knowledge, where we become more comfortable with expressing our knowledge and know-how. No one has all the answers. Don't wait to have all the answers to start speaking up. We'll have to balance being a teacher as well as being a student in this time. So, and being a student in this doesn't happen in a classroom. It happens on the go, on the subject, in a project. But while being a teacher and a student, getting too lost in details, trying to get all the answers is something we'll have to release. We would learn to separate wasteful media and screen exposure, all this exposure purely for chit chat, versus what's truly enriching experience with others using the same technology. Opportunities could come through casual discussions and sometimes even through grapevine. But you have to walk this fine line of not getting lost in the chit chats and gossips while trying to get the relevant information out. And that could happen through networking over a topic of mutual interest, like clubs, having a purpose, having an objective of discussion. Find the people who have the practical know-how of what you want to become, and then start hanging out with those experts online or offline, and create these hangouts where you could, through practical experiences, start through osmosis absorbing these new subjects. Your learning capacity and your ability to have a steep learning curve is very much supported right now. Words, speaking skills, media, marketing, publishing, writing skills, expose yourself to all of this. Networking, they're all useful on your road to success. As the journalist, the writer, the learner, the author, the teacher, the mentor, the traveler, the salesperson, the media artist, the quick thinker, the talented, the creative in you is being amped up right now. Sometimes the wasteful busyness needs to be given up because you're working towards something very focused and productive as an outcome. So the projects of large impact and influences are chosen versus many projects involving mundane stuff. We are also actively developing a part of our brain which is creative and intuitive versus purely relying on wads of data, purely relying on rational and logical side. So if your subject matter in the past has been too narrow in some ways, you would decide to broaden it or find a broader application of what you know and then teach it to a diverse set of people. If you have become culturally too restricted as well, you could decide to relocate to a place that is more culturally rich, that offers more multicultural, intellectually stimulating exposure. We change our neighborhood, our surroundings to be where we can enrich our higher mind, our knowledge, and feed our sense of adventure. Safe and local may not cut for you. You want to go big or go home, essentially. You have the sleep coming, so you don't want to be restricted in any ways right now. We would need to consciously remove, though, our past bias or even the preaching tone sometimes from our discussions, from teaching and sharing. It's a fine line of teacher and student that you're going to walk when you go through this process. You're on a discovery, an adventure of fact finding. Expose your mind to experiences you have never had before. Honor your curiosity. There will be a lot of epiphanies or coincidences when the information you need comes just in time, like by coincidences. You're reading a book and what you truly need to know, it just comes. You open a portal and opportunities come up. There are a lot of aha moments, which are epiphanies, which come, which are going to give you hints towards it. Don't get bogged down by trying to know it all. We get totally overwhelmed by minute details during the scale, which you want to be, during this transit, so which you want to be a little bit careful of. Don't try to get all the information, just dive in. Make use of the information you've got right now. It's enough to create the hypothesis you need at this moment. Don't try to get too exacting with things at this time. Showcase and leverage the skills you already have. Especially if you have working knowledge of something, build up on top of that. Expand your horizons by using your existing skills to expand the avenues of further growth. You think you don't know enough, but you do. Just start expressing and you'll know that you know a lot. It's just not expressed externally. You're learning to express what you already know externally as well by having more faith in your skills. It's not a blind faith, it's a faith which is based on the work you have put in. You're just developing that muscle to have more faith in your existing skills and then using them as the base to go to the next level. Operate on faith that's based on the current and practical facts and knowledge. So be open in the perspective, because if a new set of information comes, and be open, our mind has to be very flexible at this time. Because our mind is expanding, your opinions are still evolving, they're not set in stone. So stay open in terms of if there's a new set of information comes and you sort of are like, okay, now I need to change my mind, being open about it. You would have to find interesting ways to express some complex subject. It could be a complex concept, and you might develop a simple way or a brief way or an interesting way to express a concept which is very complex. You could use social media techniques to spread that complex knowledge that previously was possibly not available on media. You might be simplifying some concept for others by making it available on media. There could be also, in terms of your local immediate environment, if you're not shifting, we're over here, it's possible that you might need to selflessly in some ways contribute to your local community. It could be a humanitarian cause, it could be a selfless cause, and as I mentioned, in some rare moments your younger sibling might need help from you, which could be a selfless deed that you need to do. But this is a period of leap of faith. And well, it would require some faith, not on the invisible, but on you and your skills, which you have developed over ages. These themes are very much consistent with the Saturn-Uranus square themes, which is also becoming exact on 14th of June and would work in parallel with these eclipse themes for the next 6 months. Uranus is shifting the power dynamic for you and in some ways releasing you from an unconscious complex. It sort of is giving you a lot of power. It's a power boost that you're getting from Uranus. And Saturn is helping you strengthen your self-expression. It's creating a structure to let others see you and your talents. So they're very similar themes which are happening with the Saturn-Uranus square as well. I covered that in your 2021 video. If you've not watched it, I would leave the link below because the aspect is again becoming exact on 14th of June as well. Before we close this session, I would also like to talk briefly about Neptune, which is the pink elephant in the room, because Neptune is going retrograde towards the end of the month and it is making a hard aspect with this solar eclipse, with this adventure. Neptune has been in your house of work and health since 2011, and it will be very strong this month. Neptune is foggy. There are usually things that we are not able to see clearly with Neptune there. So clearly there's some confusion around work and health, which is coming through because of Neptune being here. In terms of work, it could be because of our idealism or because we idolize something at work or because our boundaries are so low, we might be missing something. There might be something hidden from you at work, and that could come to surface once Neptune goes direct towards the end of the month. Neptune reduces our physical and psychological boundaries with others. At work, in some ways, we are not able to say no to others when this happens. So if there's a duty which is not ours, if there's a project that is not ours, and the other person wants us to do it, we are not able to say no because our boundaries are reduced. And Neptune adds enormous amount of charm to you. It makes you very accessible. It creates a very cordial environment with the people at work. But there are also some less than authentic factors which come up because we tend to have blind spots at work with Neptune here. Neptune also impacts our health because this is also your house of health. It does that by creating ups and downs in our routines. And sometimes there are health diagnoses which are not very clear. We don't know why something is hurting in health when Neptune is here. It doesn't happen to all of us. It's definitely more strongly felt by people who Neptune is making an aspect with right now. Neptune is at around 23 degree. So if you have planets around 23 degree of Libra, which is around 16th of October born, if you're a Libra sun, you would be feeling this strongly, and we need to be a little bit careful of health diagnosis. What happens when Neptune will go retrograde towards the end of the month is that a fog lifts. And suddenly the things that were hidden from us, they start coming out in the open. If there was something which was hurting you or a health diagnosis which was very fuzzy, we didn't know the reason for the health issue, something might come up which tells you and gives you clarity. Similarly, there's more clarity at work. And if there's something which was hidden from you at work, that will come to surface as well. Sometimes a misdiagnosis which might have happened in the past couple of months, that becomes evident. And with Neptune, it's the time to get that diagnosis redone in some ways, or the test redone. And this openness to others, or reduction in immunity, or any unknown health issue or vulnerability to current pandemic, it does block the sense of adventure, this leap that you wish to take. So there's a clash between these two. These are growth houses, two growth houses which are at conflict with each other. One wants to bring order, wants a very cordial and nice work environment, which is cushy, which is loving, where boundaries are lower and everybody is holding hands or something. But it's not it's not where the adventure is. The other part of you wants to take a leap, and you're being prompted with this eclipse to take a leap. So there could be a conflict between wanting to stay where you are in terms of work, even though because you are idealizing possibly that place of work, or there might be somebody at work who you're idealizing. There could be a romance at work as well. With Neptune over here, we see some ideal romance at work, which is sort of blocking your leap that you wish to take. On the other hand, it could be that we want to take a leap, but we don't know how, because the details are not clear. There could be a leap of faith which is maybe blocked by reality check, or by not knowing how to bring it about. Or the health and work responsibilities could possibly delay that leap of faith. There are sometimes misunderstanding with mentors, and I mentioned this earlier as well, which can happen at work. There could be expectations of somebody at work who you have low boundaries with, who you sort of have been doing work for in a selfless fashion. That could come in the way of the expansive vision you have of what you want to create. It could be a boss, it could be a co-worker. And that part that you were possibly being used, or it was not so kosher, might come to open towards the end of the month, and we need to be a little bit careful about getting used there. At the same time, we'll have to balance giving into the step-by-step investigation of what needs to be done versus knowing the bigger picture. You may not know the whole thing on how to go about it. You might have to compromise a little bit on not knowing everything on how to take the leap. You might have to draw a compromise between expectation of your coworker versus your own enrichment. A compromise between learning versus actual mundane work. Or a constant search for what excites you versus processes, issues, enemies, and coworkers who seemingly block your excitement and expansion. We cannot skip steps in hurry, but at the same time we cannot let go of this adventure that life is demanding out of us. You are due for an expansion. So there could be an ideological fight at work because of which you see this blockage. Sometimes the balance of the two, the mundane and the adventure, actually opens the doors. Sometimes mundane leads to adventure. Sometimes this push and pull forces us to give a structure to the adventure we want. Because in normal circumstances, we would just go easy and just stay with the current work situation, but something hurts over there, because of which we decide to take the leap to start with. But the commercials of it, details of it, there could be a challenge around that. But as Neptune goes retrograde, end of the month, and Jupiter is also now over there in your house of work, it will shed some light into what needs to be done. And there is, if dare I say, some possible support could come through around 23rd of June, when Sun and Jupiter are making an aspect, and you could see a way out of this conflict. Details we are missing are revealed, and we find some useful way out of this conundrum. If something was kept from you at work and there was a confusion, or you were being cheated on a contract, it might reveal itself in coming weeks as well, after Neptune goes retrograde on 25th of June. There's more support on work and health coming in 2022. when Jupiter, after 13 years, will finally move into your work and health sector. But right now, around 23rd of June, we might see a preview of that benefit. I covered this in your 2022 preview if you want to go deeper into it, into what form of support might come. But remember, this is a sliver of support. Rest is still left to you for 2021. The support coming from others is a 2022 topic. So it's possible that you might have to take this leap irrespective of this conflict, irrespective of this support. You might have to overcome this lack of support in some way. And I would not blindly trust what is being told in work situation, and try to manage the boundaries where they seem to be encroached. Immunity will be low, as I said, especially for Libra rising around 23 degree, or if you're a Libra sun born around 16th of October, I would be very, very careful about immunity, especially towards the end of the month. So that's what I have for you, Libra. Have a great season of eclipses and the next 6 months ahead. Good luck for that, and I'll see you in the next video now. Thank you.